It is Sunday, September 1st, and I have written 30 words for this session.
I finally figured out a new tracking system for my word count and my field notes for my writing process. I've decided that after I have uploaded my word count into Excel, I would transfer the numbers into this mini planner calendar. So I have today's, which is 30 words, giving me a total of 8,264. And then in this journal, I got the month, the moons scheduled, and then my entry for the day. My completed minimalist notebook system, journal, annotation notebook, word count tracker, and my portable annotation supply carrier.
For this session, I wrote 112 words. For this session, I have written 65 words.
I'm at a very difficult segment of my writing, so it's moving very, very slowly, but I am trusting the process. I'm not going to rush it, and I'm going to celebrate every little bit that I write. I think in general, transitions are very difficult segments of the writing process. Whether I write at a high volume or a moderate to low volume, the transitions don't necessarily get easier. That said, I think the burden changes with how much or little I write. So when I was writing 1,000 words every single day, the burden was so incredibly high and it really dragged on me. Whereas since I'm writing intuitively now, the burden is not as much, actually nothing near as much. When I was at the bookstore the other day picking up my journals, I came across this book titled The Recognitions by William Gaddis. And for some reason, I have been unable to stop thinking about this book. I had done a spot check, basically where I'll just flip to a random page of the book, and if the paragraph draws me in or interests me, then I'll take a picture of it and then do some further research. So I read a sample of the book on Google, and in my first read through I was like, I'm not really feeling it. But then I came back to it again and I reread the sample, and then I kind of questioned myself again. So then after my third revisit of the sample, I was like, okay, clearly there's some serious interest here. Let me take the next step. And so I got a copy, an ebook copy of it, and I started reading it like earlier today. And I think I got, at least for the ebook pages, I got like 84 pages, which was, I think, almost near the end of the first chapter. But then I dropped it again. I was like, no, I don't really know that this is still for me. But then I could not stop thinking about it. So I came back to the ebook and I was like, maybe if I just read this slower and just go line by line, it'll be something different. So I started doing that, and then I started annotating, and it's actually really interesting. At a sentence by sentence level, he writes very interesting sentences that contain a lot of paradox and unique combinations of descriptors that really tickle the brain. So he accomplishes a lot with his sentences. Like, there's a lot of context that's given, a lot of imagery that's given without explicitly doing so. I would say The Recognitions is purple writing, but it still makes sense and achieves a lot efficiently and in a very creative manner. And I'm very surprised at my interest in this because Gaddis's The Recognitions is compared to James Joyce's Ulysses, and I could not get into Ulysses. I just could not. And I find it interesting that I can with The Recognitions. He makes sense for me, Gaddis, because I feel like I kind of write in such a way. My skill level is not at all anything at that level of Gaddis. I'm not saying that, but I think I have interest intuitively because that's how my current manuscript is kind of being written. I am really trying to break all the conventional rules in my manuscript because just from a stylistic standpoint, I hate writing dialogue. I hate writing like the sentences that standardly describe what's happening in this thing. Like, I hate those kinds of sentences, writing them and reading them, because they bore me. That was quite a passionate rant, but this is my truth. Like, I hate reading those kinds of sentences and I hate writing them, and that's why I've really taken off in this unconventional path with the new version of my manuscript, and I'm glad I found an example that I can really learn from. Part of how the new direction in my manuscript Offspring, because this is not how it began, was influenced by, what's his name? Let me pull it up. Jose Saramago's book called Blindness. That book has no dialogue, and I think it was the first time I ever saw a book done that way. So it inspired me to stretch my own ways of writing to express differently. I've also started diving into this book. We are beginning with The Tempest, and I got through scene 1. Finished Act 1. I've read and annotated a few more pages of the recognitions. It is 10:30 in the morning. I have written 63 words for the session, and my week's total word count is 570. I like where I ended that segment, so I'm going to stop my session here. I am really proud of the 570 words I managed to write this week. And now I think I'm gonna dive into Rebecca, which I have been absolutely loving. And then maybe later today I'll dive into the recognitions again, which I'm also surprisingly really loving. I did a complete reorganization of my current reads, and I have been really enjoying the reconfiguration of my reading experience. I'm still processing the words to explain how I've revised my reading experience, because it doesn't make sense right now. It makes sense in my head, but it won't make sense when I talk about it. So I'm reflecting on that, and once I have it figured out, I will definitely be sharing my updates in the next episodes.